Hello, welcome to Microsoft 365 Developer Day, focused on dual screen experiences. I'm Kevin Gallo, and I'm responsible for the developer platform. Today, you'll find out everything you need to know to get started building productive experiences across a range of devices, including Microsoft Surface Neo and Surface Duo, as well as devices coming from our OEM partners, including HP, Dell, Lenovo, and Asus. So, like any developer, when it comes to my developer environment, I have to get it just right. Of course, it always starts with a high-end PC that makes transitioning between compilation, debugging, and using emulators super quick, so I can stay in the flow of a quick design debug loop. But a big part of my dev setup is having multiple screens. Sometimes it's best to keep my debugging and performance tools on one screen while I write code and see the app running on the second. Each screen has a defined purpose and is optimized to show the tools and data I need through the various phases of building an app. All of my context is in view and optimized for fast performance so I don't break my flow. However, when I want to be creative, I love to use a Surface Studio. I get an expansive workspace that shows me all of the details of my designs with natural inputs and different postures, giving me a great environment for drawing. It's the apps that fuse with the hardware to bring these experiences together, including the context relevant to the project at hand. But so much of the work we all do is not at a desk. It's on the go, connecting to meetings, taking notes, and producing as we work. It's on an airplane, at a conference, or even at home. But the need to bring focus and flow to our work doesn't stop. So we are bringing all of the power of a workstation and connecting it with natural inputs like pen and touch to empower you to stay in flow anywhere you go. This is our mission across Microsoft 365, which includes not only products like Windows and Office, Edge and Teams, but of course includes all of your apps. We're focused on empowering developers to build experiences that adapt to people so they can streamline the tasks we are trying to accomplish and can help us all be our most productive. We call these people-centric experiences. The tech underpinning people-centric experiences is the Microsoft Graph. It connects all of the key data across work and life. Your data, tasks, conversations, your calendar, your files, available to apps with your permission, so that apps can create an integrated picture of your tasks and how they connect. Microsoft 365 apps use the Microsoft Graph to deliver a synthesized context of your data. But it's also about connecting apps together, and of course, across devices. As part of the intelligent cloud, Microsoft Graph is a key enabling technology. But when it comes to building for the intelligent edge across any device or platform, we are working to help you build engaging and connected apps. Through investments in native technologies and the web, as well as cross-platform frameworks like Xamarin Forms and React Native, we're delivering a core set of user experience building blocks. This enables you to build engaging experiences seamlessly across devices. Today, we're pleased to talk about how you can deliver people-centric experiences on this new wave of dual-screen devices, including new techniques for designing and building productive and focused experiences. In 2020, Microsoft and its partners will be launching dual-screen devices across a range of form factors, ranging from devices that fit in your pocket all the way up to 12 inches and beyond. Last October, we announced the Surface Neo and Surface Duo. Let's take a look.
Sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before, no.
Hello?
I just wanna tell you right now that I really do believe that something's got a hold on me, yeah. Oh, something's got a hold on me right now, yeah. Let me tell you now, I've got a feeling, I feel so strange. Everything about me seems to have changed. Step by step, I got a brand new walk. I even sound sweeter when I talk. I said, oh, hey baby, oh, it must be love, you know it must be love.
It's important to note that this amazing hardware plus your existing apps will work great together. With the ability to use multiple apps side by side, any single screen app can work better with quick access to context coming from multiple apps. But there is a new opportunity for every app. These dual screen devices are so much more than a way to deliver more pixels in a smaller space. The split between these screens offers developers new ways to deliver productive experiences that take advantage of the diverse postures and patterns. To show you this in action, please welcome Carmen.
Thank you, Kevin. I am so excited to be here today to show you Surface Neo and 10X running on the device. First, what you'll notice is an improved start screen. Here I have one-touch access to all of my applications, as well as the documents that I used most recently. I'm going to go ahead and launch the Mail app. And what you'll notice here is it launches on the side of the screen in which I invoked it. This is important for you as a developer so that you understand deterministically where your apps are going to launch. As I'm looking at my mail, it's very common that I also want to look at my calendar at the same time. And that is really easy to do. I can launch that app on the second side of the device, staying in flow of my email while also being able to look through my calendar. Now I notice I have an email here, and it's a friend asking me if I could send some pictures of a hike that I recently went on. So, simple enough, I will launch the Photos app right next to it. I can scroll through, find the photo I want, come back to my email, click reply, and now, with the ease of touch, I can pick up this photo, drag it over into the email, and there it is. I also want her to know where this hike is from. So I'm going to pick up my pen, which is attached to the device, and I'm going to come right on the photo, and I'm going to say this is from Mount Si. As I do that, I can hit send, and off it goes. Now, I'm looking through these photos, but I want to see them bigger and more real estate. So I can span it across the two screens, and you'll see the app nicely flows. Now, I'm going to turn the device and have this beautiful scrolling view. Look at how that goes across the seam. In this moment, I remember that there was snow at the end of the hike, so I better let my friend know to be prepared for the snow. So I'm going to grab my keyboard, attach it to the device. You'll see the user experience reflow, come back to my mail, and now I have the full capability of a mouse, a keyboard, and even a rich set of input. That is Windows 10X running on Surface Neo. I can't wait to see the apps and experiences that you all build for these devices. Back to you, Kevin.
Thanks, Carmen. Surface Neo is a stunning device, but I have another device that I want to show you, Surface Duo. So here, when you see I open it up, I get this natural, expansive, very familiar user interface for an Android user. And I can do things like go to the left, look at my feed, figure out what I want to do during the day. And I can go to the right and look and see all my apps can be there on my desktop in a larger surface. I have familiar elements, like my app drawer that pops up over here, or I can bring it up over here, or I can put it back down. It's a very natural, fluid interface that I expect to go and have on my Android device. But what about apps? Well, I'm going to launch one of the most popular apps out there, Google Maps. Use it all the time to get places, and I can do things like see a larger view of that. So if I'm going somewhere, shrink that, I can get an expansive view of everything that's going on, see it detailed, and I can even do pinch and zoom across the screens. Cool, huh? Absolutely awesome. And I can go move the app and I can go look around. But I can go back and then pull it back to one screen and land it right there, or I can just get rid of it and dismiss it. Now that app showed how we would utilize the space well in a map because it utilized all the screen as one big large surface area, which made sense. But in other cases, you want to put different content on each one. So we've built an application here I call Xamarin TV. And I can play video. I'll just start the video going there. This will play video and has a list of videos under it for the different things I may want to play next or something I might be interested in. But if I go and expand this, we've decided in this app really to keep the video on the left and give the list on the right. That way I can multitask. I can watch the video, learn, and in the same time decide what I want to go do next. This is allowing me to do two things at once, utilizing the space that really makes sense so I can focus on what I'm doing. These are just two of the devices that are coming. Many more will be coming in the future as well. Now, I want to frame the rest of the presentation. First, we'll talk about the world-class tools and emulators that we're releasing so you can get started building apps. Second, we'll do a bit of a deep dive into the tech behind the scenes that powers dual screen experiences. Then we'll turn and introduce you to 3 design patterns that I think will inspire you, though of course, there are so many more than 3. The first design pattern is expansive workspaces. This is the opportunity to show more detail as your apps span across both screens. You can take advantage of the larger combined workspace. The second pattern is focused screens. With dual screens, it's more than just an opportunity for more screen space. As an app developer, you can take advantage of the combination of app patterns and device postures to deliver the right experience based on the task a user is trying to accomplish. The third pattern is connected apps. Together, multiple apps, one on each screen, can achieve broader and bigger tasks. Apps can work together across the screens without causing people to lose context. So let's kick it off, starting with tools and emulators. 3 weeks ago, we released our Android emulator for dual screen, and your feedback has been really great. Today, I'm pleased to announce the Microsoft emulator that we are making available today. You can now start developing apps for Windows 10X devices, including the Surface Neo. To show the emulators in action, I'd like to invite a member of our Windows Experience team up. Please welcome Jennifer.
Thank you, Kevin. I'm really excited to show you the emulators we've created. So let's check out the Windows 10X emulator that Kevin just announced. As a developer, I'm sure you might be asking, how can I develop my app when I don't have any hardware? And I'm here to show you how my colleagues and I at Microsoft are using this emulator to develop Windows 10X every day. With Windows 10X, we focused a lot of attention on creating an operating system that behaves naturally with the 2 screens. And a really big part of that is how the system adapts to different device postures. Let me show you what I mean. On the right side of the emulator, you see a menu with the ability to change the input modality, rotate the device, and much more. I can switch between mouse, touch, pen, and even multi-touch input. So now I'm able to make pinch and zoom gestures on this emulator even without a touch screen. But look at this. I'll open the menu here from the Tools button. There's this awesome 3D render of the device. I'll show you another part of this menu that I think is really unique. Everything you see in the emulator is mirrored in the 3D model. When I open Start, you can see this in action. Are you ready? Yeah. Pretty awesome, right? So I just got back from a trip to Patagonia, and let me tell you, that was the scariest plane ride of my entire life. But I took a lot of great pictures. I'll open up Photos to check them out. I did actually take these photos. Now, imagine I'm sitting on my couch and I want to lay back and swipe through the pictures to review my favorites. I can fold one of the screens back and use the device like a tablet. To simulate that in the emulator, I can use one of these sliders here and adjust the hinge angle. I can even select the screen I want to control. I'll select the right screen, move this over, and I can fold the hinge angle back to 360. So I don't know about you, but the first time I saw this, I literally said, wow, that's awesome. You can ask my coworker, Pat, if you don't believe me. The OS will turn the back screen off so there's no accidental invocations. And did you see how the emulator adjusted to that position change? Now we only have one screen available. Now, as I'm laying down, I might be on my side, and I can simulate that position in the emulator with the other sliders. Maybe I'm kind of leaning over this way, maybe I'm leaning forward or back. Any position I can simulate. All right, pretty cool. But now, as I'm scrolling through my photos, I like to take a closer look at this Glacier one. To do that, I can select Laptop from these pre-created postures in this menu. I'll go to the Stock Postures menu, and I'll select the laptop posture. Really cool. Now I have the second screen. I could open up a photo editor on the lower screen to do some quick edits, or send my favorites off in an email to my family. Or I can go back to Book like I had it before. So I've shown you how you can test and adapt your apps for dual screen before getting a physical device like Surface Neo. Now let's switch to the Surface Duo emulator. Here it is. We've partnered with Google and we've built a Surface Duo image that runs in the Android emulator framework and directly from Android Studio. This is based on Android 10 and it's the same look and feel you are familiar with from Android. There's no need to learn something new. It's also the same Android emulator and SDK you already know. On the right-hand side of the emulator, there's the toolbar where I can change the volume, rotate the device, take a screenshot, and the extended controls that are familiar to the Android emulator. But you can obviously see we've added the dual screens and the hinge with the seam between the screens. Let me show you a few examples of how to use your app on the Duo emulator by using one of our Microsoft apps, the Edge browser on Android. The first key thing to remember is that your app will still work great on a single screen. You can see when I launch Edge, it launches on the screen where I invoked it, just like Kevin mentioned earlier. It's exactly how my single screen devices work today, so it makes sense to me. Now, we want to encourage you to set up your workspace how you like it, so we made it intuitive to move the apps across the screens. To do that, I'll grab the handle at the bottom of the screen to drag it to the other screen. And you can see the acrylic sheet will show me where my app will go when I release. This is how I can set up my workspace the way I want it. Now, there are a lot of pictures on this site, and it would be great to be able to see more of them since I have this second screen. Here's how I can set that up. I start dragging Edge like before when I was moving it. But instead of moving it to the other screen, I linger near the seam, and again, this acrylic sheet shows me what will happen once I let go. Now Edge is spanned, and you can see that Edge lays out really nicely. We've adapted it for 2 screens. We move the address bar to the left and the selection menu to the right. In just a few minutes, we'll talk about how to adapt web pages to reflow nicely like this demo page. Now, whenever I'm using my dual screen device and I'm scrolling through a website, I often find myself rotating the device 90 degrees since it feels more comfortable to scroll through. I can simulate that here. I'll rotate it from the side menu. And you can see the web page reflows nicely as I rotate the device, and it's much easier for me to scroll through these pictures. With Android on Surface Duo and Windows 10X, we have done so much more than just adding another screen. I can use my dual screen devices like a book, like a tablet, like a phone, like a laptop. I can use them on my kitchen table, during my bus ride to work, or just in my hands. And for your apps, it means that people can use them in different scenarios on a single screen or on both, side by side with other apps or spanned across both screens in a system that responds to the hardware postures. Now, I'm working on the operating system, but if I had an app, I could download one or both of these emulators. I could see how my app behaves in all of these different postures and when it's spanned, and add to it to take advantage of all of these new user experiences. With these emulators, you can get started today. Next, to tell us about the investments we have made in the Windows 10X platform, please welcome Andrew.
Thanks, Jennifer. When we started building our dual screen experiences, we knew that ensuring your existing apps work seamlessly across both screens was going to be vital. In both Android and Windows 10X, your favorite apps will work on both screens. For Android, we've worked closely with Google to ensure the dual screen capabilities are available to all apps, as you just saw in Jennifer's great demo. Now, building these seamless experiences starts with the most core elements, the silicon. That's why we partnered with Intel to develop special capabilities for the Surface Neo and the more dual screen devices coming from our OEM partners. Windows 10X and the Intel Core with Hybrid technology, codenamed Lakefield, were co-designed to complement each other. Lakefield is the first Intel SoC that combines both big and small cores. These asymmetric cores allow the operating system to provide significant power savings. If you're running an app that doesn't need a lot of CPU, then run it on the power-sipping small cores. But if you want to be productive, the OS can run your favorite Windows app on the larger cores and get the performance that you want. Now, in Windows 10X, we concentrated on 4 key innovations for the operating system. Number 1, fast updates. Updates are going to happen in the background and then just need a simple reboot to complete. Now, we achieve this via state separation between the OS, drivers, and apps. This state separation enables the OS to download the update and switch to it at reboot, since all that data is clearly separated. The great thing about this results in updates taking less than 90 seconds. Right? 90 seconds. Now, updating fast is great, but you've got to be secure by default. And we want to ensure that throughout the device lifecycle. With Windows 10X, we're ensuring the OS comes to you secure and remains so by making the OS read-only. Apps can still interact with the OS, but via a clear set of APIs. No more registry fiddling to optimize the OS, and my personal favorite, no more registry cleaners. And without those registry cleaners, we're going to have sustained performance. Ensuring the performance you see on day one stays with you for the lifetime of the machine is so important. Because last time I checked, processors don't get slower the more you use them. And finally, the apps you expect and trust. Windows 10X will run your favorite apps no matter how they've been written, be that Win32, web, or UWP. Now, we establish trust via reputation of the code and you, the publisher. This trust is no longer just tied to the store. Apps can be installed from a publisher's website, a USB key if you want, and of course, the Microsoft Store. Right? To ensure that Windows 10X delivers on these principles, all apps will run in a container. Now, we introduced containers in Windows 10 for UWP and MSIX apps, so that apps install, seamlessly stay up to date, and run efficiently. In Windows 10X, we wanted to go a little further than that and make this more approachable for all Windows applications. Windows containers ensure all of the data for an app is written to the app data folder for the user, and that any registry and file system access is kept to the container. This isolation is very important to ensure that apps can no longer overwrite operating system or other applications' data and files, enabling that 90-second update time. Now, I'm so excited to announce the Win32 container. This Win32 container runs your existing Win32 apps, 32-bit or 64-bit. They'll be installed inside the Win32 container, no matter how they're packaged. Using your MSI, your custom XE, whatever you're using today, will just install. Now, this ensures a high degree of application compatibility and interoperability whilst maintaining a secure container. Now, the Win32 container is built using much of the same technology we use for the Windows subsystem for Linux. Who doesn't love the Windows subsystem for Linux? And it includes the 32-bit API and app model, so your app will work as they do today. The container ensures this interoperability so that you can share files to common libraries, you can cut and paste, drag and drop from a Win32 app to a native app seamlessly. Now, I'm sure you're all thinking, sounds good, but how's this really going to work? Let's take a look under the hood of the Win32 container. You know, whenever we ask people about a Win32 app, invariably Notepad comes up. So let's launch Notepad. So here I am in the emulator, and, well, Notepad just ran. Amazing, right? Of course it just works. You'd expect that. But what about integration with the OS? Well, it's running in the container, so how will the file system work for the user? Well, in reality, it works exactly the same way as it does for Windows 10. Let's do a Hello World. To make it easier to show you what's going on, I'm going to launch the File app on the other screen. See how much easier multitasking is when you have two screens? So in the File app over here, you'll see I have this device and all my libraries, and I'm going to go look in Documents. So I'm going to double-click on Documents, and let's go over to Notepad, and of course, it's got to be a Hello World, and then I'm going to do a save. And if the demo gods are with me, which they're not, it would appear. Okay. Well, let's create a new folder. This is new. Okay, so imagine, if you would, the common file dialog, and it would just show up inside of here. The key thing is it's exactly the same file experience, and the Win32 container maps that file system. Ooh, maybe it's going to work now. Let's try it. I'm feeling lucky. Well, don't clap yet. It hasn't come up yet. There it is. All right, now you can clap. Right, yes. So. Now, when I hit save, watch on the left-hand side. Be prepared for the excitement. Hello World, and Hello World shows up on there. All right, yeah. Now, you may have noticed that I have a C drive in the File Open dialog, which is what the app would expect. But if I save anything to the C drive outside of those libraries, then it will save to the Win32 container and not the operating system. Now, users will expect to be able to interact with Win32 apps just like they would do on Windows 10 desktop. And you can do that on Windows 10X. Let's go to the browser and copy some text. So I'm in the browser, and of course I'm on the dual screen devices website. So let's just copy that. And a copy over here. And hoping the demo gods are with me. Paste. And wow, it just works. That's the key thing. Now, of course that just works, but in reality, the Win32 container is providing that OS integration to make sure that it just works. There's no work needed from apps. Windows containers allow for your existing apps to continue to run efficiently without any code change. But just one more thing. The Win32 container isn't just about running your existing code. You can easily take advantage of dual screens in your Win32 app too, with just a few lines of code. So let's take a look at a Win32 app built in plain old C++. Look at my icon design. You can tell I'm wasted as a program manager, right? So here it is, and it's a simple application. And you know, here we have my blog post from my boss, which is a wonderful thing. But I'm going to take this, and I'm actually going to span it across. And the application is automatically taking advantage of those dual screens. And now it's creating a beautifully paged view that fits that device perfectly. Now, to do all this, all I had to do was use the Content Rect API in my resize, and boom, it just works. Now, of course, that Content Rect API is available to any Win32 app, no matter what language or what UI tech you use. So it's great your existing apps work, but how about building an experience that takes advantage of those unique dual screen experiences? Now, wherever possible, we've created APIs and patterns across platforms that are similar and consistent. That makes it possible to build cross-platform experiences. Obviously, I can build great UWP applications today in Windows, but we wanted to ensure you could build apps that do this, but also work great on Windows 10X and Android. I'm partial to C#, since it's cool. I've been here a long time, so while we're showing how to build dual screen experiences for Windows 10X and Android and a number of technologies, I'm going to take a look at Xamarin. We've been working really hard with our colleagues in Xamarin to enable dual screen experiences. You can enhance your existing Xamarin apps for dual screen using exactly the same tools that you use today, and enhance them using the new dual screen SDK for Xamarin. Let's take a look at how that works. Now, Kevin gave you a glimpse of the Xamarin TV app on the Surface Duo, so let's take a look under the hood of that application. What's great about Xamarin is that I can have a shared library. I'm just going to bring this up. That contains all my business logic, all my UI that can be shared across the different platforms. And of course, I can have an Android and a UWP app, so I can really make it great on those particular devices if I want to. Now, Xamarin Forms is being optimized to work with 10X and Surface Duo. So let's take a look at that app on Surface Duo emulator. So here I have the Xamarin TV app. I'm going to launch that. And when it launches as it would do on a single screen device. I can navigate into settings. Now, this application shows me a bunch of videos. You saw that from Kevin. I'm going to go to settings. And of course, it's a cool app, so I can go from dark to light. I know the cool kids like dark, but I need the light view. But what I can do here is I can go take a look at the code, because the code for this application is available on GitHub. So I can click on this Visit GitHub button. Now, on a single screen Android device, the browser would launch over the top of my app, losing context. But we're on a Surface Duo, so the browser automatically launches on the other screen, allowing me to maintain context and see the code. Did I mention that two screens makes multitasking easier? So how did the app cause the browser to launch to the other screen? Let's take a look. And the great thing about this is you're probably familiar, if you're using Xamarin, with the browser object. Well, we've enhanced the browser object so I can just call OpenAsync, and it automatically knows whether I'm working on a single or a dual screen device. The browser object does all the heavy lifting for you. Now, you can further optimize the user interface of your app so you can see it spanning across two screens. So let's take a look. So I'm going to close down settings. I'm not sure we need settings across two screens. And I'm going to take this, drag it across, and now I get this companion pane pattern that enables me to search and see the most searched videos side by side. Thanks to having two screens, you can have a secondary view, typically hidden on the smaller device, next to the primary content. Now, in order to do that, let's take a look at the code to do it. Xamarin Forms has a new dual screen SDK that provides this two-pane view. Now, the two-pane view is a great control because it automatically handles each pane for each user navigate, whether it spans or rotating across the device. Xamarin Forms supports Windows 10X as well. So I'll go back to the Windows 10X emulator, and here I have that exact same application running on Windows 10X. I can take it, hover over the middle, and I get that same dual screen experience. I can rotate, span, my app will look and feel as beautiful on Windows 10X as it would do on Android. Now, The dual screen SDK for Xamarin allows you to build apps that are amazing on dual screen devices. But of course, Xamarin Forms supports all versions of Windows 10. So here's that same app running on my Windows 10 device. And I get all the same experiences by using Xamarin Forms to build that. Now, Windows 10X focuses on delivering an always up-to-date, fast, secure, and battery-efficient experience that will make apps better. The key to this innovation is running apps in containers. And the Win32 container allows you to gain those benefits for your existing application. Enhancing your application to really take advantage of these new dual-screen devices is easier than ever using our common patterns and cross-platform tools like Xamarin.
Now that you've seen the technology innovations happening around both the emulators and Windows 10X, let's take a look at some of the design patterns that we found work great for dual screens. In this section, we're going to show you how you can take advantage of the expansive workspaces that dual screens provide. You've seen some examples of leveraging dual screens for multitasking, but one of the great things about dual screen devices is just having more real estate for the content you care about, a bigger, more expansive workspace. Personally, I love the idea of using this to see all the great content the internet has to offer. Double the cat photos, double the memes, or double the who knows what will be popular next. But seriously, if you're trying to check out a lot of content, dual screen devices are great for absorbing long, content-rich experiences. You can imagine when reading an article, scrolling through a long social media feed, or catching up on a long group thread that you maybe accidentally ignored for a bit, that having double the real estate allows you to see more of the content that you care about. Given the web is designed for large, often infinitely scrolling canvases, it provides a great platform for both building and consuming content on dual screen devices. Now, let's take a moment to talk about how we're actually making websites really shine on dual screen. It all starts with the browser. One of the most used apps on any device is the browser, and many other popular apps are powered by HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, whether as progressive web apps or hybrid web apps such as those powered by WebView. We want to provide you with the tools to build a great dual screen experience, whether you're building a site or an app. We recently shipped the new version of Microsoft Edge, built on top of Chromium. See a cool logo there. I love our new browser, and not just because I work on it. I'm super excited that this new version of Microsoft Edge will be the primary browser for the Surface Neo and Surface Duo devices. So now, let's take a look at a website running on the Surface Neo emulator. Naturally, your web content will look great in single screen postures, such as in tablet mode. So if we bring up, oh, I'm just too excited for pizza. I always do that. All right, so if we bring up Edge, we can see our content looking great here on a single screen. But let's also take a look at what happens in some of our dual screen postures. If we rotate the device, fit it to our screen here, handy feature, and go ahead and span this content, alas. Let's go ahead and, there we go. So, your sites will just work in postures such as dual landscape, which is a great way to see more of the pages you browse. However, today, the web lacks the primitives necessary to lay content out deliberately across multiple screens, as required for a tailored experience on a dual screen device. If we rotate back and resize again, you'll see that when our website spans across two screens in the book posture, the text will be split across the seam and the two screen segments. Of course, we know reading is an incredibly common scenario for web content, so Edge has a reading mode enabled for a default reading experience. But we also want to empower you to create great, tailored dual screen experiences on the web so that your content will shine in every posture exactly the way you want it to. To achieve this, we're proposing new web platform features for dual screen devices. The spanning CSS media feature, new CSS environment variables for foldables, and a new JavaScript API to enumerate display segments where logically separate pieces of content can be placed. We've started engaging with W3C working groups and have shipped an intent to prototype for Chromium. Now, let's take a look at the code. The first proposal that we're discussing is the window segment enumeration JavaScript API. This is a great way to ensure that dynamic web content can adapt to any dual screen device. Now let's take a look at some of the additions we want to make to CSS. Here we're looking at adding media queries for spanning to naturally take advantage of CSS to build adaptive dual screen layouts. We're also proposing some new CSS environment variables to enable the ability to build UIs optimized for dual screen while avoiding taking any dependencies on specific screen sizes, hinge sizes, or resolutions. Now that we've talked through some of the proposed APIs, let's take a look at our site with some changes. Go ahead and enable those. Ta-da! Our website can now detect when the screen has multiple segments. As you can see, the text is now laid out logically around the seam, so the columns are not interrupted and reading is a much more pleasant book-like experience. This is a pattern we call the two-page pattern, which takes advantage of the natural reading style where a user may hold their device in a physical book posture. If your app or site has a focus on reading as an experience, whether in short or long form, we think it's incredibly natural to support a two-page pattern with your app or site providing seamless transitions between pages. Personally, I'm a huge book nerd and read probably way too much, so I love the idea of curling up with the infinite reading material of the web, accessible in the familiar and satisfying form factor of a book. So now, let's take a look at one of my favorite multitasking experiences on the device, because no web developer demo would quite be complete without bringing up my tools. So, let's see. Luckily, I've done this demo enough to know that that is when I've gotten into a buggy state, so I'll just go ahead and relaunch Edge. So just like on your desktop, you can bring up your dev tools with Inspect. And this is okay, but there's kind of a lot going on here, and I think we can do better. So if I go ahead and pop these out into their own window, this is... Isn't that awesome? I just think it's so cool. Who wouldn't want this view with all of their great web content here on one screen and their entire familiar desktop dev tools on the other screen? I get the full experience of what I have on my desktop today running inside the Surface Neo emulator. I love this about dual screen devices. It's just so cool. I know here we're showing our tools running locally in the emulator, as of course you could on a device. And we know most of your development will happen on your existing dev machine. So don't worry, we'll have you covered with some future additions to the Edge dev tools to cover those scenarios too. The new features we've highlighted today are currently being developed in Edge, and an experimental implementation of the dual screen APIs is actually available behind a flag in Edge today. As dual screen features progress through the standards and implementation process, we plan to contribute our dual screen work to Chromium so that Edge, Chrome, and other Chromium-based browsers can enable dual screen experiences on Windows or Android. In parallel to the standards process, we've also created a polyfill representing our current proposal so that you can get started building dual screen web experiences today. Beyond pure web apps, we know a lot of you are developing hybrid web applications based on WebView. We're actively developing WebView 2 based on the new version of Microsoft Edge to be available for both Win32 and UWP apps. The Win32 WebView 2 has been in preview for a few months, and an alpha of the WinUI WebView 2 is being made available today. Awesome, right? We're actively working to make WebView 2 work great for you on dual screen devices. Our demo here was running in Edge on Windows 10X, but with the web, you can expect your experience to work both in the browser or when installed on an app on both Windows 10X and Android. So to recap, in this section, we've covered how your apps and sites will work naturally within the expansive workspaces and postures of dual screen devices. We've also covered a set of proposals to advance the web to enable dual screen aware content and polyfills you can use to get started today. Lastly, we covered how you can build immersive experiences like a two-page reading view.
In this section, I'm going to talk to you about focused screen experiences. Now, you've already seen many examples throughout this keynote. With Xamarin TV, I showed, but I guess I tried to show you on the Surface Duo, a video on one screen and a list of video clips on the other, allowing me to have both of these in view at all times. Lindsay just showed how a web page can paginate its content, giving you a highly tuned reading experience. And PixArt showed you a dual screen editing experience with a live preview on the top screen and a set of tools on the bottom so you can see changes happening in real time. Now, It's more than just the visual experience of the app. It's about how the person is physically holding and interacting with the device. For example, when it's held like a book, the buttons may be best on the left and right for easy thumb access. For PixArt's app, they designed it for easy finger interaction on the bottom screen. These are just some of the ways an app can deliver focused experiences centered on the person. But there are so many more. Now, delivering this kind of experience might seem a little daunting. Well, to make it simple, we've updated our WinUI two-pane view control and are also creating versions for React Native and Xamarin. This control interprets the posture of the device and positions panes for each screen where you can place your content. It also handles transitions between the postures. This means developers really only have to focus on the content for each pane based on the orientation of that pane. So to see all this work, you want to see some code? Well, let's go look at it. So I'm going to show you an app here. This is a pizza app, because we all love pizza, and trying to find a place to get pizza. So this is a simple, I'll call it master detail. Master detail usually means there's a list, which is the master, and the detail, when you select an item, it shows you the detail of the item that you selected from the list. And in here, I happen to show a map that just visualizes it better. And then here's a list of content. And typically when we built this app, you select it on the single screen here, it replaces the content to show you that item, and then I go back. We see this all the time on our phones and PCs. But when I actually span this, I kind of want a slightly different experience. I really want the master on the left where I can select the item that I want, and then I'll have the detail on the right-hand side. Now, when I built this originally, you can see I have a navigation view up here, my little hamburger. And what I would have done is the master would have been inside there as a view, and then when I selected an item, I would have just swapped out the view inside of the navigation view. However, when I want to get it on two screens, that's not kind of what I do. I really want one view, and then I probably have to use a grid to lay it out. Well, this is where two-pane view control comes in and really simplifies this for developers. Let me show you this in VS Code. So this is actually done in React Native. So you'll see, obviously, a familiar React Native feel here in the code. But it could be done. We'll show you in a few other ones. But there are two pieces to that application that I'll point out. So the banner actually here is only on the left side, not on the right side. And when I'm on single screen, I only ever want it to show up when the map's there. But I want the content to have two pieces of content on each side. So here in VS Code, I actually have two. This is my first two-pane view, and this is my second two-pane view. The first one's for the header, and I really say just place it in pane 1. I don't want anything happening in pane 2. That way it just automatically handles that for me. But then I tell it that I want pane 1 to have the master content, and then pane B to have the detailed content. So in two-screen view, then it magically, book posture, it will just show both of those side by side. And when I have it in one screen, I have this property you might have noticed here called pane priority. Pane priority is the one to show when it's on a single screen. So all I have to do is toggle this when I'm between master and detail. So when I'm in master, pane 1 has priority. When you select an item, I'll change the content in the pane here to be the correct detail, and then I'll change the priority to be the other one, and then back the same thing. So here I can use one control with really just a toggle of a property, and everything else is handled for me automatically. Great, huh? So let me close that down. Now, of course, this is a device that transitions between postures. And so you want to make sure that you can handle those transitions. And so a lot of people tell me, hey, it's great, you show it in isolation, that's simple, I like that. But how does it come together? And how would you go and tune the app from end to end to really make the experience great on two screens? So I'm going to show you a WinUI application. This could have been built in a UWP or in Win32, since WinUI is available to both. And I'll show you this application. Let's pop it up here. First on the desktop. So we'll start with the version that I built for the desktop. And then I'll show you how I modified it for the two screens. So this is a destination planning application. This year is my 25th year anniversary. And so we had to plan some destinations. So I built this app kind of saying, hey, we'll use this as a way to kind of build that trip. So my wife was interested in going to Japan. So here's potentially a Tokyo that I see in this beautiful gallery of images that we can get that really want to make you go to all of them, but we only get to go to one. So now the one I wanted, I thought was, hey, Italy. I'm Italian, never been to Italy before. That might be a really cool thing to go do. So we select these two in this beautiful grid that we've laid out. I hit compare. And you'll see in this comparison view, automatically, hopefully your eye went and said, wow, that would be great on a 2-screen device. I mean, it just looks nice, it's beautiful. I can compare things, independently scroll them, and kind of figure out like which of these we're going to go do. Now, let me show you actually on the emulator that app running. So when I first launch it, again, it goes to the gallery. But since we had an adaptive design, because it was WinUI and was reactive, it adapted to the size and laid it out in 2 columns naturally. And when I span it, it will actually, again, lay itself out nicely. However, you really want to make sure, unlike, say, on a desktop where the window can be arbitrary sized and you'd add more items, you want this to split naturally between the two. So this app is a navigation view, and I just made a grid inside of that. So what I want to do is make sure that my grid has an even number of columns. So when it splits, the left and the right will have an equal number, and that will feel natural. The second thing you want to do is make sure that when it splits the margin, so when it cuts across here, across the edge, you'll see the margin gets split in half, which is natural and looks good. But if it's too small, it gets a little close to the hinge, and you'll just want to make sure you have enough padding. And you'll see here, we made sure that we had enough padding so that it would not look bad, and it looks great. So now let's go to that comparison view once I had selected those 2 trips. So here, again, absolutely stunning, works great across these 2. It's just a natural device for this comparison. My wife was actually quite impressed. She thought it was pretty good. But then again, she wanted to go to both, so then I had a problem. We still had to pick. And so here, we've laid it out with them in a comparison view. And this, when I originally built it on the desktop, I, again, used a grid to lay them out. But here, I actually use a 2-pane view that naturally just lays this out across this in an easy-to-use way. And let me go show you that in Visual Studio. So here I'm going to hop over to Visual Studio and show you, again, quite simple code, because the beauty of it is the content that was in each pane didn't change. So the fact that I had a grid above it, laying it out, didn't mean I had to change the content inside of that. All of that code I could reuse. So here I just introduced a 2-pane view, and I took these grids that are the content. This is the one that would be Tokyo, and this is the one that would be Italy. And so Rome, I think we're looking at there. And so that would be there. So that content just moved, and I just changed the host control. And then automatically I get this to work on the desktop and on 2-screen laid out, and I didn't have to do any of the heavy lifting of figuring out the grid, figuring out the screen sizes. I only had to focus on the content in the panes. So let me show you kind of the next thing. So here, now that we have the 2 panes, it handles the transitions for me. Let me show you what you do need to do as you transition through posture, that the user uses it in different postures. So I'm going to bring up my handy-dandy posture picker here that you've seen already. And so I'm going to choose Dual Landscape. So when I scroll that here, you'll see that, oh, it's a little big, so I have this nice little feature here, Fit to Screen, great for demoing, if you want a hint there. And then I can bring it over to the side. And you'll see that it did a couple things. One, I didn't have to write any code to handle the change of the 2 screens, the fact that it's on the top and the bottom. That was handled automatically by the 2-pane view control. I did want to adjust the content, because my content went from being in portrait mode to being in landscape. And the way I did that, I already handled this on the desktop, because I have to handle orientation changes there anyway. I just moved the image to the right and created more space above it. So now it looks great. I can go do that comparison. Very simple. Now you might be thinking, okay, great. What does it look like on a single screen? What did you do on the single screen? So here I'm going to go, and I'm going to drag it, and you'll see that because I was doing a comparison didn't mean that I wanted to, like a master detail, I would set a priority. But here in a comparison, the 2-pane view control worked great even on a single screen. And I just laid it out and could do a side-by-side comparison. And when I look at my desktop app, it really is exactly now the same exact control. I can resize it here, and you'll see side-by-side, all that work that I did to make it great for 2 screens made it even better and simpler to build even for the desktop. And I even moved the images aside with my adaptive triggers. So I made them synchronized into a way of scrolling the content in the middle, and they both scrolled easily together. So they're simple to go do, and the investments you make for 2-screen actually reapply and create better experiences even for your other devices like a desktop where it's a single screen. I've just shown you 3 ways you can optimize your existing apps for dual screen devices. First, when you span a grid view across both screens, adjust the size of the grid view items so there are always an even number of columns, and also check margins so they're good across the seam. Second, when creating focused screen experiences, use two-pane view and set the priority so it works right when running on a single screen. Third, be sure to optimize your content on posture changes, just like you normally do. Now, of course, there are many more UI frameworks in the world and a bunch of custom controls that people build, and we want to make it possible for all of them to support dual screen experiences. So we're releasing a set of low-level APIs as well as open sourcing our implementations of two-pane view that you can refer to when enhancing your own controls. For Windows, APIs for multiple monitors have existed for a long time, and we're extending these and adding new APIs to support functionality like hinge angle, posture, and how the screens are oriented to each other so you can tell where the hinge is. For Android and web, we're working with the appropriate communities to design a similar set of APIs to provide a consistent base for all dual screen experiences. In summary, to build focused screen experiences that are truly optimized to make people productive, take into account how they're holding the device, how they interact using their hands or the pen, and how your content should be displayed on each screen. And two-pane view makes it simple to build responsive layouts for dual screen experiences. Now, to show you connected apps experiences, I'd like to welcome Guy.
Thank you, Kevin. In this section, we're going to cover how you can use multiple apps alongside to help users get tasks done. With the power of dual screens, you can now connect apps together and help your users achieve more. Many times, you want to launch applications with the right context. For example, launching a help page in a browser from your app. You will probably want to see the help page on the other screen alongside your app. Let me show you how easy this pattern is to implement. In this case, I'll show it with Android. Many Android applications use intent to launch activities from their app. You can use techniques to launch other applications as well. With just a few lines of code, you can utilize both screens and add value to your existing apps starting today. Let's see a demo. Consider a messaging app that supports a group chat. This app is a group chat that I have with my family. We're trying to arrange dinner plans. Not an easy task, I must say. The kids want pizza, mom wants salad, and everybody has opinions. When I try to reply with my own opinions, and I hit the reply, I lose my focus and I lose the whole threaded view. And I often go between the threaded view and the reply. Let me show you a small trick. By adding this flag activity and hitting reply, the replies go to the other screen, keeping me in my flow. On the left screen, I can see the whole context, and on the right screen, I can hit my reply. What typically happens behind the scenes is that the reply flow is architected as a new activity. Starting that activity will take over portions of the screen or even the whole screen. However, by a few easy steps, you can launch any intent in the adjacent screen while keeping the user in their flow. Time for some code. By adding these two flags before starting the activity does the whole trick. Just add these two flags, start the activity, and the magic happens. The cool thing here, it will only do it if the adjacent screen is not occupied by another app. If another app is already running there, it will launch the activity on the same screen and not interfere with the other app. It is that easy. 2 lines of code. How cool is that? Now let's see another demo. Another way to take advantage of the best of multiple apps across screens is to help them share information. And a natural gesture for doing that is using drag and drop. Drag and drop has been around in Windows for a very long time and was added to Android with a split screen view back in 2016. On Android, it worked well within apps, but it didn't really have a great cross-app use case until now. With dual screen devices and foldables coming to life, it makes much more sense to add drag and drop support to your app. Let me show you how using our Surface Duo emulator. This sample application is built in Java, and you can find it in our sample GitHub repo. In this sample app, I have two sections. On the top, I have the content that I want to drag, and on the bottom, I have some destinations. So I can drag a text and put it here, or I can drag an image and put it here. But the magic really happens when you do it across two screens and two apps. Let's try that. I'm going to launch Edge on the right screen. So here we have Edge with our dual screen documentations. Go check them out. And on the left, we have the same sample app. Now, when I select some content to copy, whoops, let me copy this content, and then I press a long click, I can drag it into my app. And you can see Edge chose to provide a preview showing me what I dragged, and the sample app highlights the drop destination where I will drop it. Let's try the same demo. Let's try the same demo with some images. So I'm going to launch the File apps. It comes built in with the phone. And here I have some local files and local images that I took. I love ice cream, so this is an ice cream image. When I long press that and start to drag it, notice that the preview here is different. Files chose to provide a preview, which is the file name, which makes a lot of sense because it's a file thing. My sample app now highlights a different area where I want to drag it and shows me an image there. And then when I drag it and drop it, it just shows up in my app. Super cool. The demo you've just seen is on Surface Duo and on Android. But you can achieve the same results on Surface Neo running Windows 10X. Time for some code fun. Here. I want to highlight three main steps to add support for drag and drop in your app. The sample app we created contains fragments, one for the source and one for the destination. This is the source fragment. And here, I choose to do on a long click, which starts the drag operation. I add two things here. The first one is I add a drag and drop start. This kicks in the whole flow of the drag event, stop and start. Second, I provide a preview. This is, again, the source. So I provide, using a Drago Shadow Builder, I provide a preview that will be shown to the user. On the other hand, on the target fragment, this is where I reason over all the drag events. So I have a listener on a drag event, and in the case that the user does an action drop in my sample app, I reason over it in code. If it's text, I do one thing. If it's an image, I can do another thing. This is also where you can add additional types. If you want to add HTML or other links, you just add it to this and reason over it in your code here. Super easy. Finally, I want to introduce a new capability specific to the larger form factor size that you can see in Surface Neo. You've already seen it in a demo earlier today. When a keyboard is placed on the screen, it opens up a specific area on the second screen. That is useful for pinning a smaller view of your application. We call that the Wonder Bar. This enables scenarios where you can use two applications alongside each other. Watch a video and take notes, or video chat with a colleague while you work on your presentation. For developers, you can also render application experiences to a picture-in-picture overlay type window. This gets docked into the Wonder Bar as you use other apps. On Windows, the greatest news is that this is enabled through an existing Windows API, Compact Overlay Mode. If you already have an implementation that uses this API, it will just work for you, and it will show up in the Wonder Bar. For the web, websites and apps would be able to bring up experiences to the Wonder Bar through standard browser support for picture-in-picture APIs. The Wonder Bar is a new opportunity for your app to expose experiences that stay pinned and add value to other apps. We can't wait to see what you build with this. I want to recap this section with a few words on how to bring your app to Surface Duo and Surface Neo starting today. Just follow these 3 steps. Step 1. Start by testing your app on the emulator and on a single screen. Your app should just work. Step 2. Make incremental changes. Use the native platform-based APIs and embrace multitasking features such as drag and drop, the Wonder Bar, and other features we've seen here today. And step 3 is where your innovation really comes to life. You now have more real estate to showcase your app. Use our dual screen APIs and samples and consider one of our design patterns or just invent your own. Thank you. I would like to invite Kevin back on stage.
This year, you'll see new devices from Microsoft and our OEM partners that deliver dual screen experiences across a range of sizes and across both Android and Windows operating systems. These dual screen devices provide a new way for every user to experience your apps, fully productive anywhere they go. Now, of course, your existing apps will work fine on a single screen. However, by taking advantage of expansive workspaces, leveraging postures and patterns to bring focused screens, and by creating connected apps that work together across screens, your app can truly become people-centric. No matter your choice of technology, you can get started building dual screen experiences today using our emulators and corresponding tools. Visit the docs for more information and links to the new tools and developer experiences. And you can also use hashtag Microsoft 365 Dev Day to reach us on Twitter. We can't wait to see what you create. Thank you.